Can you still
But, huh?
You know Fred?
Do I know Fred? Yeah.
Did that help?
Well, George Wythe was a lawyer. Now he's a dead lawyer, obviously. We're going to keep going right across the
The
palace.
best kind of lawyer.
That makes some people feel better when I say that he's dead lawyer.
What?
But when George Wythe was alive, he was a teacher and a mentor to some of the famous figures in American history. For example, Thomas Jefferson walked these steps here, studied law under George Wythe. John Marshall, our fourth Supreme Court Justice, also studied law here under George Wythe. George Wythe helped frame the United States Constitution, signed the Declaration of Independence, very important man. But most of us haven't heard of George Wythe until we come here to Williamsburg. Let's set up here a little bit closer. We'll stay in the grass for now, just in case a vehicle comes down. And then afterwards, after I tell you about the history of this building, we'll walk a little bit closer and see if we can get some of the activity. Well, the reason why I think most people haven't heard of George Wythe is probably because of the circumstances of his death overshadow his life. See, George had a very shady nephew by the name of Sweeney. And Sweeney was the type of man who worked just long enough to get enough money to go down to the pub, drink it all away, then he was broke again. And see, he knew that he stood to inherit all of his uncle's wealth after he died. Now, guys, if you were around back in the 18th century, you made it to the age of 40, you were considered to be an old man. And ladies, don't laugh because you were lucky to make it to the age of 30 or 35. That's right. Eventually, things change around. Women start living longer. But here was George Wythe at the ripe age of 80. And he was still going strong, practicing law. It didn't look like he was going anywhere anytime soon. So as you can imagine, Sweeney's growing more impatient as the day goes on. So he decides to take matters into his own hands, speed up the process a little bit. And he starts to slip arsenic into his uncle's breakfast. And if you didn't know, arsenic is an ingredient in rat poisoning. Brings about a slow, agonizing death. Perfect disguise for a death caused by old age. Which you guys didn't get this information from me, by the way. Now, we don't know if Sweeney put the arsenic into Uncle George's tea or his cereal. I tend to think he put it in the tea. Because if he put it in the cereal, well, then he'd been known as the first serial killer, right? Sometimes that takes a while to filter through the group. Sorry. But he didn't die right away. At this point, he was bedridden, hanging on for a couple weeks. And then his trusted servant by the name of Lydia Broadnex came up to his bedside and said, "George, I think you're no good enough. He's been poisoning you." Matter of fact, this morning I saw him slip something into your tea. I brought you the evidence. Well, George mustered up his strength, summoned his own lawyer to his bedside, proceeded to rewrite his entire will to ensure his no-good nephew wouldn't get a single penny of his inheritance that he was willing to kill for. Sadly, a couple days later, George Wythe passes away. But afterwards, there was a big murder trial. Who done it? And people had a hunch that Sweeney was somehow involved, but they couldn't prove it. Well, what about the star witness, right? Well, the star witness had a double whammy. One, she was female. Two, she was African American, so she wasn't allowed to testify in the court of law. So Sweeney got away with murder. And his lawyers knew that he dodged a bullet. They came up to him after the trial. They said, "A lot of people aren't going to be happy about this. You might want to get out of town." And he did. He hightailed it to Tennessee, which was all backwards back then. But we know old habits die hard. Eventually, Sweeney got into some gambling debt, troubled the wrong types of people, had to make a quick getaway, stole a horse. Eventually, he was arrested, tried, and hanged for stealing that horse because it was a capital crime. And so most people would agree that justice had finally been served. And now George Wythe's spirit can finally rest in peace, right? Well, right?
Yes. No.
Wrong. Because people that have been in this house at night, that have slept here, have been awakened out of their sleep by a cold, terrifying touch of a hand on their forehead. Some theorize that George is unhappy that somebody's sleeping in his room. Others believe he just wants to be in touch with somebody from the land of the living. Whatever the case, he only comes back once a year, June 8th, the anniversary of his death. So mark your calendars for next year. But don't worry, because sometimes I think George hangs around a lot longer. Because one night, one of my colleagues was standing out here, very credible source, when she said that that gate on that white picket fence swung open by itself. And that's impossible because these gates all have a ball and chain to keep the wind from blowing it open. Well, on this particular night, she said that that gate swung open and a dark cloud descended from the top of the George Wythe house, hovered over her group. I mean, she lost half the group like that. They scattered. I don't know if that would happen tonight. That might have been a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Well, you know, everybody wouldn't know.
But those that remained, she said that that cloud followed them for the rest of the tour. And I think it could have been the spirit of George Wythe, or it might have been the spirit of one Lady Ann Skipwith. See, Lady Ann, she didn't own this house, but like many others, she was a guest here. In fact, she got invited to attend the Royal Ball at the Governor's Palace, which is the building at the end of the Palace Green here. And she got invited to attend with her husband, Sir Peyton Skipwith. And when you got invited to attend the Royal Ball, you found a place that was relatively close to stay because sometimes this went on into the night. But now the thing about Lady Ann, she's known for this big fiery red mane of hair on top of her head. And she had a fiery red temper to match it. And she was also known to be a jealous woman. So we know when you take jealousy and a red temper, not a good recipe. But she had a sister named Jean who was just as beautiful as her, but she had a much more pleasant attitude, fun to be around, the type that you want for your best friend. And Sister Jean came with Lady Ann Skipwith, husband Sir Peyton, to attend this Royal Ball, and the two women were upstairs getting ready. And the first thing Sister Jean realized is that she needed to do something with her sister's hair because they're from out of town. She knew if somebody got to laugh and snicker and saying something that she didn't like, well, that would ruin the party. That would set her off, ruin the party for everybody. But back then, they didn't have hair gel, straightening irons, any of these fancy products women have today. What do you think they might have used? Any ideas?
Heat, iron, grease,
Nope, nope.
spit.
Spit, slick it down. No, they took sugar and water, mixed it together. That stiffened their hair, flattened it right on out. And for the makeup, believe it or not, the young women wore hot wax-based makeup. So they had to position their face in the smile they wanted it for the rest of the night before that wax would dry. Price you paid to look good. They didn't want to crack a smile later on. And then she slipped into this beautiful cream-colored ball gown dress, intricately trimmed with ribbons, beads, the whole nine. And on her tiny little feet, she slipped into these beautiful red high-heel dancing slippers, complete with pearl buckles. And if you're wondering how in the world do I know all the details of what she had on, well, that's because the attendees of the ball, they wrote about it. There's no Snapchat, Facebook. And the women wrote down to the finest detail what each other had on. So we know Lady Ann was looking fabulous. And she took the arm of Sister Jean, took the other arm of Sir Peyton. They descended down the staircase, out that front door, across the front lawn, stepped up on that stepping block, boarded into a beautiful carriage. If you're wondering why in the world would she need to take a carriage, I thought you said she's going right down to the Governor's Palace, right? Right down the road. Well, back then the roads weren't paved like they are now. And there was no way she was going to go walking in those beautiful high-heel slippers of hers. But more importantly, when she got dressed to impress, she wanted to make sure that everybody saw her, and she did. So she took the long way around, all the way around the Palace Green, waving and nodding the whole way. Made a grand entrance, red carpet was rolled out. We know that the night was enchanting. Lady Ann was seen laughing, joking, singing, dancing, having a merry time. Until all of a sudden, she saw something that made her angry. I mean, she got so mad, she starts pulling her hair till it was back into a poof over top of her head. And then she bolted out that front gate, starts running up the Palace Green. Now, ladies, you have to imagine, underneath her ball gown dress, she would have had on a stay, like a corset. And she would have had her sister tightened up real tight. So she was looking good, but it restricted her movement, so she could barely sit down, let alone run. So she's trying to run as best she could. Then she takes a misstep, bursts on those hills, down she went. But between that stay and that big puffy hair of hers, she didn't stay on the ground. She bounced right back up, kicked that one shoe off, kept running all the way to Palace Green. She made it all the way to the front door. She kicked that front door open. You can imagine the scene to the servants. They were just hanging out, chilling, not expecting anybody home so soon. But she burst in that front door so mad. What took you guys so long? Smashed the mirror on the side of the wall, sliced her arm, blood starts dripping on her ball gown dress. Then she started stumping up that staircase. But because she only has one high heel shoe on, it's making it sound like click, boom, because she stumped with the other foot. And to the servants upstairs, well, to them it sounds like a peg leg. Maybe it's one of the 13 pirate ghosts that we often tell out here. They don't know, so they're frightened. She's marching up that staircase, getting more angry, more frustrated. We know that when she reaches the top, she's so mad, so frustrated, probably a little woozy from that lost blood, that she flings herself over the banister, all the way down, bang. And this time, she didn't land on that big puffy hair of hers. And the legend says that that fall killed her. but the legend of Lady Ann Skipworth has grown over the years. And people that have been in this house at nighttime, they all describe a similar experience that they tell nearly word for word. At the stroke of midnight, what time is it?
7.
They hear something moving up that staircase. They all describe it as sounding like a peg leg. Click, boom, click, boom. Even more bizarre, those who've been in the bedroom to your right, those two windows, they've seen a beautiful woman emerge out of the closet. She's dressed in an 18th century ball gown dress, turns and positions herself in front of the mirror, inspects herself from head to toe, turns back around to that closet, and she vanishes. And we don't know why Lady Ann comes back so frequently or what she saw that night that made her so angry. But we have some clues. You see, her husband, Sir Peyton, he wasn't exactly overcome by grief after she died. In fact, he goes on to remarry just 2 weeks later. And who do you think he remarried? The Sister Jean, that's right. But to his defense, back then, if a young woman met an early demise, had a sister who was unwed, well, that sister would assume responsibility looking after the children, moving with the husband. So he's just doing his fatherly duty, right? But we think something a little deeper was going on. Because Sister Jean and Sir Peyton went on to have several more children, we know they were madly in love. Now, real quick, as we start to investigate this area, there was a woman who came on our tour who heard this story. She decided to come back the next day, take a daytime tour of the house. She brought her camera with her. And she took some pictures of that staircase I was just telling you about. And the next day after she got those photos developed, she noticed that one of them had a smudge on it. And this was strange because the other pictures were very crisp and sharp, but this one had a smudge. And when she examined it a little bit closer, she saw that that smudge was actually the misty figure of a woman with their hair stacked high above her head, holding up her ball gown dress, going up the staircase. Now, she told this to a man who was writing a book about the Ghost of Williamsburg. In fact, that's what he called it. It was Ghost of Williamsburg Volume 2. He put it right on the front cover. So if you ever find that book online or in the bookstore, you will see that picture of Lady Ann Skipworth. So feel free to snap some pictures. This house has been very active throughout the summer. We often get orbs hovering around this building. And the students of College William and Mary, they know. Sometimes we'll see them walking down this street around midnight. They're from the frats and the sororities, and they'll bring their new pledges up these stairs, challenge them to knock on that door 3 times. And say, Lady Ann, I found your red shoe. Supposedly, if she's around, you'll hear a little knock back or jiggle on that doorknob. Breathe. Feeling anything here?
When I did come up, I did sense a feeling of jealousy and just strong emotion. And I keep being connected to these 2 top windows here. That's just about it.
Has anybody gotten anything that looks like an orb, figure, shadows?
Yeah, I keep feeling like I see a shadow in the front.
Anybody getting anything on the meter? Are you getting anything? No.
Yeah, I am now, yeah.
Oh, yeah, what's going on?
I've had people feel rushes of cold air when they've been on those steps. Folks are seeing orbs.
I keep seeing a light in this.
Is there anybody here at the house? It's connected to the house. Anybody connected to the house? That's the first time not getting any scanning. Oh wait.
All the way up to the red.
Oh, wow.
Somebody's here.
Okay,
It was
is anybody
quiet
with the
all
house?
along. Who is in the house?
Is there any spirits with this house?
It was so quiet all along. All I had was the power. Somebody's here. Are you?
What's your name? Oh.
They're
Turn the light on.
answering you on the K2.
they're
When you
answering here.
start, anybody
Turn it on. Like,
connected
I
to the
cannot see them.
house, it lit up like a Christmas tree all of a sudden.
I have a different posy about the skip which one. I did the
Oh yeah.
Get the one. It's in my book.
Okay.
And Taylor probably knows that.
You're here.
He got
I
one
know.
book. Who is the person who makes the sound going up the steps? Who is it that they hear going, making like a peg leg or something up the steps? Can you tell me? Who is it? Do you want to tell us? Come on, you can use the box. Use my energy. I'm feeling to wipe out anyway, so I'll be home sleeping all day.
There's somebody who's brave enough to go knock on that door.
She's knocking now.
Why don't you knock on it, Karen? You're brave, one.
And you guys might want to take pictures while they're around the house there, because that's sometimes when we see activity. Yeah, let's go a little
We're
closer.
going to come talk to you. I know you can do it.
Let's go.
Weird. I only went to this weird. But they can talk to us. I try to help. But I need a flashlight, so I have to pull out of my pocket. Because my husband's not going to be on my... They're shutting it off. They're shutting it off. And they're shutting off the box. That's so funny.
Now it's quiet again.
Come on, talk to us. What is your name? What is your name? If you can shut off the box, you sure as heck can talk to me. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm pretty tired, but you can use my energy. Who is the one that makes the sound going up the steps? I know it's not Lady Skipwitch. Who is it? I know the house has some haunting.
Not her either.
Can you tell me who you are?
Polly? I heard Polly.
What did you hear?
I heard sound like
I'm
a Polly,
recording it.
but
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's been so quiet. Now it's
it's going off.
Christmas tree
Are you
again.
attached to the house? If you're attached to the house, either answer here or really bring those lights all the way across.
light up all the lights.
All the way across if you're
Can you
attached
do
to the
that?
house. Of course they're not going to ask me on the phone because they shut off the camera again and the phone. If you can, don't use the batteries. Use me. It's turning off the thing. At least you're planning to really turn it off. Can you tell me who you are? Can you tell me who you are? Can you tell me who you are? They're shutting it off. Look at that.
Stop spinning.
Like they don't want to talk.
Let me face away. Make sure it's not the radio. I
You did give us something. Can you tell us?
Can you light the lights up over this way?
Oh, I heard that.
Thank you.
Something.
I just
So
want to
you
make
said
sure
something. Come
it
on.
wasn't the
It
radio or
says
anything.
Male.
Yep.
Are you a male spirit?
Is it standing? It doesn't seem
Somebody
like it's
said a
standing.
name. Use me, not the battery or the camera.
Well, they're flashing the lights like crazy.
Well,
on
he
the
said it, he
K2.
said something. I got it on my recorder. One thing, I will go home and listen to a lot of it. Not like I have any more book to worry about. Can you let us know you're here? Can you look out one of the windows? Wave.
Do you want us to leave?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to change it and stuff. I don't really know what I wanted to start talking to because I didn't hear things.
Oh, you have? Oh, maybe you don't.
Oh, hey. Do you think we can do that? Because it's after 12.
Okay.
Over there. I want to talk to her. No, so, you know what?
Okay.
Yeah, we just said it. Hi, we're getting ready to wrap this thing up.
Okay, everybody, just to let you know, everybody can hear me. This is the official conclusion of the tour, but we will be walking past the cemetery, that which is that brick wall. That's the churchyard of Blue Parish Church. We also get a lot of activity there. So we'll still be around if anybody wants to hang around. We'll answer some questions. But you also want to snap pictures as you walk past that brick wall, and particularly at that gate right up by the church. We get a lot of activity. So a few of us will walk up with you guys. Mike, you want to walk up with those guys? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll bring everybody up from here.